All right, good afternoon, everyone. As I mentioned in my newsletter earlier today, it's been very busy with a lot of news regarding stuff going on with the NCAR, Weather Service, whatnot. And I've been talking a lot about that in my posts, and I feel like I haven't had as much time to talk about weather. So I wanted to do a quick video briefing here talking about what's going on in the actual weather world. If you've never watched one of these videos before, I do tend to bounce around a little bit, and it's kind of an on-the-fly thing. So please bear with me as we move between different tabs and different maps. But I'm going to go ahead and start here by looking at the a North American, a big picture look at what's going on at the 500 millibar level, which is about 18,000 feet above ground level, and is the level of the atmosphere that meteorologists look at to really look at what's going on, like with the jet stream and with the overall global kind of hemispheric weather pattern. And if you happen to watch my video, I guess it was last week, I talked about a couple of upper level areas of high pressure that were really persistent and were really dominating the weather pattern across the northern hemisphere. And these two weather features are still pretty much intact. The first one is this high pressure area over the Bering Sea and near the Aleutians. This has been a like semi-permanent feature now for days and days, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. This is a really anomalous area of high pressure aloft. The contours here are the heights, basically equivalent to pressure on a surface map, and the image is showing how far above or below normal the heights are. So you can see bright, a big area of bright white here showing very unusually high heights here. The other area is this area of high pressure that's been kind of evolving and moving back and forth here over the southwestern United States, but it's been pretty persistent, and it's going to continue to be. So if we drill down, well, let me take a quick look here. This is the AI version of the operational European model. And if we kind of step out through time here, so we look, this is 36 hours. So this is tomorrow, Thursday evening. You can see this disturbance that starts out over the Pacific Northwest at the initial time of this morning. By tomorrow evening has dropped into the Midwest. And this is going to bring one more shot of colder air to the eastern part of the United States late in the week. And in the wake of that, the high pressure area off the southwest coast of the U.S. is going to start to shift east and eventually start to build as a new area of low pressure starts to develop in the middle and upper levels of the atmosphere off the west coast here, downstream of this gigantic high pressure area over the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. And with time, the pattern just continues to grow more amplified. You can see there's actually another area of unusually low pressure here to the north of this high pressure area off the Aleutians. And meanwhile, we have the this low pressure area developing here off the west coast, and then downstream of that, the very strong high pressure area developing across much of the United States. So I want to drill down now and look a little bit at some of how this is going to impact some of the sensible weather. And I'm going to scoot back here again. This is the European ensemble model. looking at again, the 500 millibar heights and the anomalies. And I'm going to start off here by showing again this system that's dropping into the Midwest. And you can see here this very strong packing of contours here on the southwest side of this system. This shows where really strong mid-level winds are blasting across the Rockies, and this is resulting right now in a significant downslope windstorm over the central Rockies, and particularly in the Denver Boulder foothill region. This system will continue to drop south, and by tomorrow evening you can see a unusually strong upper level low pressure center here over the Midwest, with a downstream area of upper level high pressure over the Northeast, which is going to bring some record warm temperatures to the east ahead of this next wave of cold air. While in the Pacific Northwest, you can see here, talking about the packing of the contours, there's this really strong onshore flow into the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to bring another round of very heavy precipitation to especially Oregon this time. That may result in some additional significant flooding across that part of the country. As we go out further in time, you can see that as we go out into Sunday and Monday, this high pressure area aloft in the atmosphere really becomes the dominant weather feature across much of the United States by the time we get into the early part of next week, with an expansive area of above normal heights across most of the country. And that's really going to result in an anomalously warm Christmas week for much of the country. The lone exceptions may be over the Northeast, where we will still see some occasional shots of colder air, especially over like New England and Maine, rotating around this high pressure area. And then over the West, it's going to the West Coast, it's going to be particularly stormy with again a number of waves of low pressure and associated atmospheric rivers making landfall and producing heavy precipitation. And going way out in time, if we go out beyond Christmas and into heading toward New Year's, as we go out in time, the models become more uncertain, and you don't tend to see as clear of figures as you do, or excuse me, as clear of anomalies as you do, because you're starting to have more model disagreement. You can still see the overall weather pattern is generally for this high pressure area at middle and upper levels of the atmosphere to continue to dominate much of the central and eastern United States into the start of 2026. So we'll see if that actually pans out in the model world, in the real world, the way it is in the model world. But it's certainly looking like after a period of cold weather over the central and eastern United States to start off the winter, the next couple of weeks are going to trend very much the opposite direction, with a lot of above normal temperatures. So let's take a dive into a couple of these near-term weather events that are going on. The first thing I want to talk about is what's going on as far as the winds. I talked about that we had this upper level disturbance moving across the Rockies, and that it was bringing really strong mid-level winds to the region, and obviously higher elevations of the Intermountain West, the Rockies, are up into the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So you get a lot of strong winds at higher elevations, and with downsloping, you can get these winds spreading down into some of the valley locations. And we've seen some incredibly high winds across parts of the northern and central Rockies the last 24 hours. This is max wind gust that's been reported since midnight, and you can see a number of locations here have had 60 plus mile an hour wind gusts. Got a 91 mile an hour wind gust here at Lander, Wyoming. And when we look, if we drill down into now the area around the Denver metro area, we can see that some really impressive winds have started to develop in the foothills in the western part of the metro area, the Denver Boulder metro area. The airport here at Boulder Municipal Airport had a wind gust to 87 miles an hour just before the top of the last hour. It's 3:42 p.m. Central Time, just to ground you in what time I'm talking about here. And the raw station at Arvada had a gust to 93 miles an hour. So there's some really impressive winds occurring now in the Denver metro area. And if we look at the high resolution model forecast from the HRRR model, it really seems to have a pretty good handle on this, was showing that the winds would be peaking over the next couple of between 3 and 5 p.m. local time. So it seems like the model had a pretty good handle on this. This is probably the peak of this windstorm for this event over the next couple of hours, but strong winds and some higher elevation snows are going to be occurring in the Colorado Rockies here for the next several hours. If we look at, this is a site I like to look at pretty routinely. This is the poweroutage.us website. You can see here that power outages due to these high winds have been pretty widespread across the Pacific Northwest. Both Washington and Oregon have more than 100,000 customers without power, more than 200,000 in Washington, and a total of nearly 600,000. Colorado has really been going up in the last couple of hours, up to over 75,000 now. I'm guessing that at least some of these are actually proactive shutoffs by the power companies in this area. There's significant concern for wildfire issues given the strength of the wind and low relative humidity, and the fact that conditions have been rather dry in this part of the country of late. So definitely some concern here for fire danger. And if we look at, like I said, I call things up on the fly here, so bear with me. We're looking at the fire danger for tomorrow, and you can see there's a pretty large area of elevated to even critical fire danger across the central and southern plains tomorrow afternoon as this weather disturbance moves across the area and stronger winds start to spread across this part of the country. And then finally, I want to take a look at what we have going on out west and the atmospheric river situation. So I'm going to bop back here to this evening, and you can see here, at least for now, the high pressure area off the southwest is really kind of dominating the pattern across the west coast and has kind of brought a bit of a reprieve to the heavier precipitation over the Pacific Northwest. But as we go through time, you can see this new area of low pressure developing off of British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest, and it continues. One wave moves through tomorrow afternoon and into Friday morning, and then eventually we see another wave of low pressure developing back over the Gulf of Alaska and down into the area off the Pacific Northwest for Sunday. And if we look at the precipitable water values, which is essentially, precipitable water is essentially, we're looking at the amount of moisture in the atmosphere that can be condensed out to produce rainfall. And you can see this next atmospheric river feature associated with the first area of low pressure that's going to be moving across the Pacific Northwest tomorrow and into Friday. And you can see it really points here toward Western Oregon. And that's the area that's going to be the most under the gun for heavy rainfall with this first wave. And then as we go through time, that atmospheric river becomes more focused down here over the Central California region. And it kind of takes up residence here as that new area of low pressure in the middle and upper levels of the atmosphere develop up off of British Columbia and in the Gulf of Alaska. And you can see here, there's several days where this onshore flow and this river of moisture is really just pointed into Central California. So that's really going to, and by the way, again, here I'm looking at the AI version of the European model, and I'm going to get a little closer in here so we can see some of the actual rainfall being forecast by the model. And you can see here that as we go into the early part of next week, we start getting some foot-plus rainfall precipitation totals here in the northern Sierra of California, with some 5 to 8 inch amounts here along the coast. And given that this is the AI version of the European model, it kind of smooths things out a little bit. So there will almost certainly be some heavier amounts in some of the higher elevations here. And again, if we look at the temperature anomaly, so as this is occurring, you can see that overall the temperatures are pretty well above normal here across California and the western U.S. So again, this is not going to be a situation where we're going to have a lot of heavy snow coming down to lower elevations. This is a situation where the snow levels are probably going to be relatively high because of the anomalous warmth. And we're going to see, again, a lot of this precipitation falling as rain, except at some of the really higher elevations. So definitely some significant concerns for flooding initially in Oregon with this first wave for Thursday and Friday, and then likely spreading down into more of Northern California and Central California as we go into next week. And then I finally just want to kind of step through this temperature anomaly here as we go through the next 7 to 10 days. And you can see here, this first wave of warmth, this is the temperature anomaly through, or as of tomorrow morning. And you can see this really anomalous warmth across the Midwest. But we have this next wave of colder air coming in behind that disturbance that I was showing moving across the Midwest as we go into Friday and Saturday. And that's going to bring, after this anomalous warmth and near record warmth along the eastern seaboard for Thursday into Friday, it'll bring another shot of colder air into the eastern U.S. for Friday and into the weekend. But again, that's going to be a pretty quick shot of cold air, and this anomalous warmth over much of the western half of the country is going to spread east again. One more wave of colder air comes down Sunday across the upper Midwest and just kind of skirts across the Great Lakes into Monday. And then that's really, except for the far northern part of the northern plains and the northern Great Lakes and eventually into northern New England, that shot for Sunday is really kind of the last gasp. And as we go through the early and middle part of next week and to Christmas itself, you can see here the European AI model is showing anomalies as high as 30 to 40 degrees above normal across much of the northern and central plains, down across the Midwest, into the Ohio Valley. So it's very likely we're going to see some widespread record high temperatures as we go through the middle and end part of next week. So in other words, Christmas. And it's not going to feel a lot like Christmas for much of the country with this well above normal warmth for most of the country from coast to coast, really, to be honest. So I am going to, I think, stop sharing there. And I know we've had a couple people join here as I was doing my briefing. Does anybody have any questions or want to ask anything?